I'm writing this as a way to process everything that happened and maybe provide some insight to anyone out there dealing with a similar mess. My name is Jake, and I was married to my college sweetheart, Melissa, for 6 years. We met at a party during our sophomore year, and honestly, it felt like a fairy tale. We were the couple everyone admired. I had a decent job as a graphic designer, and she was climbing the corporate ladder in marketing. We talked about our future, planned trips, dreamed about kids. Life was good until it was. The first signs of trouble crept in subtly. Melissa became distant, more focused on her phone than on our conversations. I brushed it off initially, thinking she was just busy with work. I mean, she was managing a team after all. But as weeks turned into months, the changes became more glaring. She started going out with friends more often, staying out late, and her excuses got flakier. "I have to meet with a client," or "we're working on a project deadline" became her go-to lines. I noticed a slight change in her demeanor. She was more irritated with me, less affectionate. 1. Friday night, I decided to surprise her by preparing a nice dinner, one of our favorites. I got everything ready, set the table, and lit some candles. But when the clock hit 7 and she still hadn't come home, I started to worry. I tried calling, but she didn't answer. I must have called her 5 times before I finally got a text saying she was stuck at the office. It was the last straw. I tried to convince myself that it was just work, but deep down, the gnawing feeling in my gut told me otherwise. The following day, I had to go into the city for a client meeting. I decided to drop by her office afterward, thinking I could surprise her with lunch. As I approached her building, I noticed her car parked in the lot. My heart raced with excitement, but when I got inside, I was met with a scene that shattered my world. There she was, with my college roommate Ryan. They were laughing and sitting way too close for comfort at a cafe just around the corner from her office. I froze for a moment, feeling the floor drop beneath me. I wanted to turn away to convince myself I was imagining things, but no, it was real. They were sharing a dessert and there was a spark in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years. I felt sick. I confronted them right there, my heart pounding in my chest. "What the hell is going on?" I had to force the words out, and they both turned to look at me, panic etched on their faces. Melissa's expression shifted from shock to irritation, and Ryan awkwardly shifted in his seat, avoiding eye contact. "What are you doing here, Jake?" Melissa asked, her tone dismissive, like I had no right to be upset. I demanded answers, and she started with the usual lies. "It's not what it looks like, and Ryan's just a friend." But I wasn't buying it. I could see the guilt in her eyes, and the way Ryan squirmed only confirmed my suspicions. The anger bubbled inside of me, and I felt my heart breaking at the same time. In that moment, I felt a surge of betrayal wash over me. My best friend and my wife together. It felt like a punch in the gut. I left that cafe feeling like I was in a fog, my mind racing as I replayed every moment we'd shared. The idea that she'd been intimate with him after all those late nights and excuses was devastating. When I got home, I was a mix of emotions, rage, disbelief, and heartache. I wasn't just mad at her. I felt betrayed by Ryan too. He was supposed to be my friend, not a backstabber. I sat there staring blankly at the wall, trying to comprehend how the life I had been building was crumbling around me. As the initial shock faded, anger set in, and I began to think about my next move. I didn't want to wallow in despair. I needed to take control of the situation. I made a decision right then and there. I wouldn't just sit back and let this happen to me. No, if they thought they could ruin my life, they had another thing coming. And that's when the seeds of my revenge started to germinate. This was just the beginning, and it felt like I was just getting started. I had plans, and I was determined to make a life that Ryan could only dream of. After that fateful confrontation at the cafe, I spent the weekend in a haze. I moved through the motions, eating, sleeping, and working like a ghost in my own life. I couldn't shake the images of Melissa and Ryan together, laughing, sharing intimate moments while I was oblivious, believing we were happy. I kept replaying every moment in my head, trying to decipher when it all went wrong. I spent hours packing my apartment, my mind racing. I didn't want to confront Melissa again just yet. I needed to gather my thoughts and devise a plan. I started analyzing everything I knew about them, How long had it been going on? Were they really seeing each other behind my back, or was this just a fling? I needed answers, but more importantly, I needed revenge. The first thing I did was reach out to a mutual friend of mine, Mark, who had always been close to me but had also known both Melissa and Ryan from college. I needed someone who could provide some insight without judging me too harshly. We met for drinks, and as I shared my story, I could see the disbelief on his face. Dude, I always knew Melissa was a bit off lately, but this, with Ryan, that's low, he said, shaking his head. You deserve better. Mark was a good listener and he offered some practical advice. You should gather evidence. If this is as serious as you think, you might want to prepare for a legal battle. The thought of legal action made my stomach churn, but he was right. I couldn't let her walk away scot-free. Armed with a renewed sense of purpose, I began my investigation. I knew that Ryan still lived in the same apartment complex as us, so it made sense to watch him. I set up my laptop on the couch, pretending to work while keeping an eye on his place from my window. It was slow going at first, just me doing mundane tasks while anxiously glancing over. After a few days of spying, I finally caught a break. One evening, I saw Ryan's car pull into the lot. My heart raced as I watched him get out, but what sent me over the edge was the sight of Melissa slipping out of her car and joining him. They didn't know I was watching, and the thrill of deceit washed over me. I fumbled for my phone, taking a few pictures of them together as they walked to his apartment, laughing like they had all the time in the world. That night, I felt a strange sense of empowerment. I wasn't just being hurt, I was taking control of the narrative. I set up a private folder on my laptop labeled Evidence, and I began collecting everything I could find: photos, texts, and instances of her lying to me. Each piece I gathered felt like a small victory, fueling my desire for revenge. Meanwhile, I also started transforming my own life. I began hitting the gym regularly, wanting to feel good about myself again. I hadn't realized how much I had let myself go while being in a relationship where I felt secure. As my body became stronger, my confidence started to return. I even updated my wardrobe, trading out old clothes for more stylish options. Each day, I could feel the bitterness of betrayal morphing into something more empowering. With every workout and every new shirt, I felt ready to reclaim my life. I wanted Melissa and Ryan to see what they had lost. I wanted them to regret their choices. While I was busy reinventing myself, I decided to explore the possibility of a new job. I had always wanted to work for a bigger agency, and I started applying to positions that would take my career to the next level. I updated my portfolio and reached out to connections in the industry. I knew that if I wanted to build a life they could only dream of, I needed to elevate my professional game. Sure enough, after a couple of weeks of applications and interviews, I landed an incredible opportunity with a top-tier design firm. The news filled me with adrenaline. I could feel the tides changing and I was ready for what came next. Eventually, I decided that it was time to confront Melissa again, but this time it would be on my terms. I wanted her to see me as strong, someone who was moving on without her. I planned a dinner at home, inviting her to discuss us. I knew it would be the perfect opportunity to drop the bombshell and reveal everything I had found out. That night, as I prepared, I was filled with adrenaline. I had orchestrated everything: the ambience, the food, the perfect atmosphere for what was about to unfold. I wanted her to see that I was no longer the weak husband she could manipulate. I was ready to put the final pieces into place. When she arrived, I greeted her with a smile, masking the storm brewing inside me. She looked surprised to see me in a fitted shirt and freshly trimmed beard. I could tell she noticed the changes. But I wasn't here to impress her. I was here to take back control of my life. As she sat down to eat, I could see her relax, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit her. I needed to keep my cool, to remember that this was a chess game, and I had already made my first move. The evening was about to take a dramatic turn, one that would leave its mark on both of us. As we sat down to eat, I could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. Melissa chatted away about her day, completely unaware of the emotional roller coaster I had been on. I forced a smile, nodding along as she talked about her work, while thinking about how I was going to reveal the truth. It felt surreal, almost like I was playing a role in a movie and I was about to drop the bomb. "So how's work been for you?" she asked, glancing up from her plate. There was a hint of genuine interest in her voice, perhaps even a little spark of affection, but I knew it was just an act. "Actually, it's been great," I replied, trying to sound casual. "I just got an offer from that design firm I applied to a few weeks ago. I'm really excited about it." Her expression shifted slightly, surprise mixed with something else. Was it jealousy? No, that couldn't be right. I buried the thought and pressed on. "That's great, Jake. I knew you could do it," she replied, but there was something off in her tone. It didn't sound as enthusiastic as I expected. "Thanks," I said, letting the silence hang for a moment. "So I actually wanted to talk to you about something important." She paused, looking at me curiously, her fork halfway to her mouth. "Okay, what's up?" I took a deep breath, feeling my heart race. "I saw you the other day with Ryan." The color drained from her face. Her fork clattered onto her plate and she froze, eyes wide as she processed my words. "What are you talking about?" I didn't let her deflect. "Don't play dumb, Melissa. I saw you two together, laughing, sharing dessert. You think I wouldn't notice?" I felt a surge of adrenaline as I leaned forward, fixing my gaze on her. Her expression morphed from shock to defensiveness. "Jake, it's not what you think. We were just catching up. Ryan is an old friend. It doesn't mean anything." "An old friend? How many times have you seen him since we got married? How many catch-ups have you had that I didn't know about?" I pressed, my voice rising slightly. "You've been lying to me and I'm done pretending everything is fine." She opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. "You know what? I have evidence." I took my phone out, pulling up the photos I had taken of them together. I threw them onto the table between us, watching as her eyes darted from the screen to my face. "Jake, those don't mean anything. You're taking this all out of context." She protested, but her voice wavered. I had never seen her like this, cornered and vulnerable. "How long has this been going on?" I demanded, my voice low yet firm. "Months, weeks, I deserve to know." "I didn't want to hurt you," she stammered, her earlier bravado fading. "It was just a mistake. We were just talking." "A mistake? You think flirting with my college roommate is just a mistake?" I felt a wave of anger boil up inside me. "How could you do this to me, to us?" She dropped her gaze to the table, her defiance crumbling. "I don't know, okay? I was feeling lost. I didn't mean for it to happen." "Didn't mean for what to happen?" I pressed, barely able to contain my fury. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around, and for what? Because you were feeling lost. That's your excuse." "I was trying to find myself." She shot back, tears welling in her eyes. "You've been so focused on work, I felt neglected. I didn't think you'd notice. I thought I could handle it." "Handle it?" I almost laughed, the bitter taste of betrayal in my mouth. "You think sleeping with my best friend was a solution, or that lying to me about it would somehow make it okay? You've made a mockery of our relationship." As the reality of what we were going through sank in, I felt the weight of the moment press down on me. All the love we had built, the dreams we had shared, now felt like a facade. I had invested my entire being into this marriage, and she had torn it apart in a matter of months. "I can't believe you would do this to me," I said softly, my voice cracking. "I don't even know who you are anymore." At this point, the tears were flowing freely down her cheeks, and I could see the cracks in her carefully constructed facade. "I'm sorry, Jake. I truly am. But please, we can work through this. I don't want to lose you." But I wasn't sure I could ever see her the same way again. I thought about my future, about the life I had envisioned with her. Did I really want to try to salvage something so damaged? "I need time to think," I said finally, standing up from the table. I couldn't stand to look at her anymore, the betrayal too fresh and raw. "This isn't something you just brush off. You need to understand what you've done." I walked out of the room, leaving her sobbing at the table, feeling a mix of anger and heartache. I felt numb, but I couldn't let that stop me. I needed to move forward with my plan to build a life that proved I was better off without her. In the days that followed, I knew I had to be strategic. I had evidence of her betrayal, and I planned to use it to my advantage. But above all, I was determined to show her and Ryan that I was more than just a betrayed husband. I was a man ready to rise from the ashes, stronger than ever before. This was my time to shine, and I wouldn't let this betrayal define me. I refused to be the victim in my own life. It was time for me to be the one writing the next chapter. In the aftermath of that explosive dinner, I felt like I was in a weird limbo, caught between heartbreak and an empowered resolve. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. Melissa attempted to reach out, texting me several apologies and pleas to talk, but nothing she said could erase what she had done. I kept my phone silent, determined to focus on my next moves. With the evidence of her affair securely stored on my laptop, I began to formulate my plan. It was time to take the high road, but with a twist. I wanted to build a life so fulfilling that Melissa would be left in the dust, regretting her choices. I would show her the consequences of her actions without stooping to her level of deceit and betrayal. First on my agenda was throwing myself completely into my new job. I started working longer hours, immersing myself in projects, and networking with colleagues. The energy was contagious, and I realized I had been missing out on this part of my life while I was preoccupied with the issues in my marriage. Every late night felt like a win. Every design I created was a step toward rebuilding my self-esteem. I even received compliments on my work that reminded me of my talent and potential. With each passing day, I found joy in the little things, catching up with friends, exploring new hobbies, and rediscovering myself outside of my relationship with Melissa. I began taking weekend trips to nearby hiking spots where I could clear my mind and enjoy nature. It felt liberating, invigorating, and it was a sweet reminder that I could thrive on my own. One of the key aspects of my plan involved social media. I hadn't shared much about my life with Melissa on my profiles, but I decided to change that. I began posting about my new job, my travels, and the fun activities I was doing. I wanted to create a narrative that showcased my transformation, a stark contrast to the image of a heartbroken husband. I also started hitting the gym harder, focusing on my physical fitness. I wanted to feel good in my own skin again. I invested in new workout gear and started seeing visible results. Friends began noticing the change, complimenting my dedication and newfound confidence. I knew that every drop of sweat was a step toward not just revenge, but also personal growth. As I was thriving, I couldn't shake the feeling of needing to address the situation directly with Ryan. I had been very deliberate about not contacting him after the discovery of their affair, but I knew that I couldn't avoid him forever. I wanted him to know the consequences of his actions, and I wanted to confront him with the truth. So, I devised a plan to meet him. I chose a neutral location, a small coffee shop not far from where he lived. I wanted to catch him off guard, to ensure he understood that I was no longer the pushover he might have remembered from college. When the day arrived, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. I arrived first and sat at a table in the corner, watching as people trickled in. A few minutes later, Ryan walked in, looking exactly as I remembered him, confident and casual, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit him. "Jake." He greeted me as if we were old friends. "Good to see you, man." I forced a smile, but inside I felt nothing but fury. "Yeah, it's been a while, Ryan. We need to talk." His expression shifted as he realized I wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. We sat down and I wasted no time diving into the conversation. "So, you and Melissa, what's going on there?" He feigned ignorance at first, but I wasn't having it. Cut the crap, Ryan. I know about the affair. I saw you two together." His eyes widened and I could see the color draining from his face. "Jake, it was a mistake. I didn't think you would find out. We were just what?" I interrupted, feeling the anger boil inside of me. "You were just betraying your best friend. You didn't think it would hurt me." He stammered, trying to come up with an excuse, but I didn't let him. "You know what? You don't get to play the victim. You made your choices. You had a life and a friendship, and you threw it all away for a moment of weakness." I watched as the realization set in. He had messed up big time. "I'm sorry, man. I really am. I never meant to hurt you," he said, looking genuinely remorseful. I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. "You need to understand that this isn't just about you and me. Melissa has betrayed our marriage and you've betrayed our friendship. But from now on, I'm done with both of you. I'm going to build a life that leaves you both in the dust." Ryan looked taken aback, but I could see a flicker of respect in his eyes. What are you going to do? Let's just say I have plans, I replied, standing up to leave. And trust me, you'll wish you hadn't crossed me. I left the coffee shop feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I had confronted Ryan, and it felt empowering to take charge of my narrative. I knew that both he and Melissa would be watching as I built this new life without them, and I intended to make it spectacular. In the weeks that followed, I focused on solidifying my transformation. I accepted new responsibilities at work, pushed myself to excel, and built relationships with colleagues that turned into friendships. I started dating casually, exploring connections with new women who appreciated me for who I was. The more I immersed myself in this new life, the more I felt like I was reclaiming not just my identity but my happiness. I wanted Melissa to see what she had lost, a partner ready to conquer the world, not a man heartbroken over her betrayal. It was a journey of self-discovery, and I was determined to show them both that the life I was building was one they could only dream about. I was no longer the victim. I was the architect of my own happiness, and nothing could stand in my way. As I continued to build my new life, it became clear that my transformation was more than just physical or professional. It was a full-scale reclamation of my identity. Every day, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose, grateful for the chance to start fresh. I had thrown myself into my new job, embraced my fitness journey, and even started exploring new relationships. I felt like I was on the cusp of something incredible. Then, one evening, as I was out with some friends at a local bar, I had an unexpected encounter. I was enjoying a drink and laughing with my new colleagues when I spotted Melissa walk in with some of her friends. My heart raced at the sight of her, and I could feel a mix of emotions bubbling to the surface. I hadn't seen her since our confrontation, and part of me felt a strange sense of satisfaction knowing she would see the new me. I watched as she scanned the room, her eyes landing on me with a look of surprise. I could tell she hadn't expected to see me out. I raised my glass slightly in acknowledgement, and she hesitated, clearly unsure of how to approach me. After a moment, she gathered her courage and walked over, her demeanor a mix of apprehension and regret. "Jake," she said, forcing a smile, "you look great." "Thanks, Melissa," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. I could feel her eyes examining me, perhaps taking in the changes I had made. "How have you been?" "I've been okay," she replied, glancing around as if searching for the right words. "I wanted to talk to you, but you've been so distant." I couldn't help but feel a rush of satisfaction. "Yeah, well, I've been busy. Life has taken a different direction for me." She nodded, biting her lip. "I get that. I've realized a lot since, everything happened. I miss us, Jake, I really do." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Part of me wanted to believe that she regretted her choices, that she truly missed the life we had built together. But I also knew that this was the moment I had been waiting for, the chance to show her how far I had come. "I've been doing a lot of thinking too, Melissa," I said, maintaining eye contact. "I've focused on my career, my health, and my happiness. I realize that I can't let someone else dictate my worth." Her expression shifted as she processed my words. "I know I messed up. I was selfish and confused, but I want to work things out. I'll do whatever it takes." "I appreciate that you want to take responsibility," I replied, my voice steady. "But I think you need to understand that I'm not the same person you hurt. I'm stronger, and I'm not going to settle for a relationship built on lies." She looked down, her shoulders slumping as the weight of my words sank in. "I understand. I just want a chance to prove that I can be better." In that moment, I could see the vulnerability in her eyes, and it stirred something deep within me. I had loved her once deeply, but love isn't enough to heal betrayal. "Melissa, you need to know that I'm not waiting around for you to decide what you want. I've moved on, and I plan to keep moving forward." Before she could respond, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there. I felt a mix of emotions, satisfaction, sadness, and relief. I had confronted her honestly and firmly, showing her that I wouldn't be a doormat anymore. In the days that followed, I continued to thrive. I kept my focus on work, relationships, and personal growth. I found myself dating someone new, a woman named Sarah, who was kind, funny, and genuinely interested in me. We had an easy chemistry, and with her, I felt like I was rediscovering the joy of connection without the weight of betrayal hanging over me. As my relationship with Sarah developed, I found myself wanting to share my life with her in a way that I hadn't been able to do with Melissa. I was open about my past, my hurt, and my journey to reclaiming my life. Sarah appreciated my honesty and encouraged me to continue pursuing my dreams. Then came the moment I had been waiting for, the chance to really show Melissa what she had lost. A few weeks after our run-in at the bar, I was invited to a high-profile design event in the city. It was an opportunity to mingle with industry leaders, showcase my work, and celebrate all the hard work I had put in. I decided to take Sarah as my date. I wanted to make a statement not just to Melissa but to myself. As we prepared for the event, I felt a thrill of excitement. I put on a tailored suit that fit perfectly, and as I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the man staring back at me. I felt confident, ready to show the world that I was thriving. When we arrived at the event, I could feel the energy buzzing around us. The venue was filled with people mingling, sharing ideas and networking. I spotted Melissa across the room, and I could see the look of shock on her face as she realized I had moved on. She was accompanied by a group of friends, but her eyes were glued to me and Sarah. As the night progressed, I focused on having a great time with Sarah, introducing her to colleagues and enjoying the atmosphere. But I couldn't resist the temptation to give Melissa a little taste of what she had lost. I made sure to be seen laughing, engaging, and exuding confidence. At one point, I found myself in a conversation with a well-known designer who had taken an interest in my work. Melissa stood nearby, watching as I animatedly discussed my projects and future plans. I caught her eye and gave her a subtle, satisfied smile, knowing that she must have been feeling the sting of regret. After a while, I made my way over to her, determined to deliver my final point. "Hey, Melissa," I said, feigning casualness. "How's it going?" Her expression was a mix of surprise and apprehension. "Jake, I didn't expect to see you here." "Yeah, I thought I'd come out and celebrate," I replied, gesturing to Sarah, who had just rejoined us. "This is Sarah, my girlfriend." Melissa's eyes widened as she registered my words. "It's nice to meet you," she said, forcing a smile. "Likewise, Jake has told me so much about you," Sarah replied, her tone friendly. I could see Melissa's discomfort growing as Sarah continued to engage her in small talk. "Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm doing really well," I said, looking straight at Melissa. "I'm happy, and I'm excited about what's next for me. I hope you find your path as well." With that, I nodded towards Sarah and walked away, feeling an exhilarating sense of liberation. I had shown her not only that I had moved on, but that I was thriving and ready to embrace the future without her. As the night drew to a close, I felt a wave of fulfillment wash over me. I had taken my power back, and I was ready to embrace the life I had built for myself. No longer was I merely the victim of betrayal. I had risen from the ashes, stronger and more determined than ever. I couldn't wait to see what the future held. The world was mine for the taking, and I intended to seize every moment. I had learned from this experience that sometimes it takes losing everything to truly find oneself. And in that loss, I had discovered more than I ever imagined possible. With each passing week, my life continued to flourish in ways I had never anticipated. Embracing change had opened doors I hadn't even known existed. My relationship with Sarah deepened, filled with laughter, respect, and genuine connection. It was refreshing to be with someone who saw me for who I was, not who I had been in the shadows of a broken marriage. Sarah was supportive of my career ambitions and encouraged me to pursue projects that excited me. She believed in my vision, and that confidence helped propel me further than I had thought possible. I was working on high-profile design projects now, getting recognition in the industry, and the best part was the sense of fulfillment I felt. I was no longer just existing, I was thriving. Then came the day of the annual design competition, a prestigious event where top designers showcased their best work for industry leaders to judge. I had spent months preparing for this moment and was excited to present my project. I arrived at the venue early, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I looked around at the other participants and could feel the energy in the air. This was my moment to shine, to show not just myself but everyone, including Melissa, that I had moved beyond the betrayal and was ready to take my place in the world. As I set up my display, I caught sight of Melissa in the crowd. She looked different, less confident, almost tentative as she navigated through the venue. I hadn't seen her since the event where I had introduced her to Sarah, and I could tell that the reality of our separation had settled in for her. But instead of feeling resentment or anger, I felt a sense of compassion. She had made her choices and I had made mine. The competition began and I was on top of my game. Presenting my design, I spoke passionately about my vision, my process, and what drove me. The audience was engaged, and I could see judges nodding, taking notes. I felt a rush of exhilaration. This was what I was meant to do. After the presentations, there was a networking session where participants and judges mingled. I felt a sense of freedom as I engaged with others, sharing my ideas and learning from their experiences. I was in my element, and it became clear to me that I was no longer the man defined by heartbreak. I was a designer, a creator, a visionary. It was during this time that Melissa approached me. I could see the conflict in her eyes as she hesitated before speaking. "Jake," she said softly, "can we talk?" I took a moment to gauge my emotions. This was the woman who had broken my heart, but part of me wanted to be open to conversation. "Sure," I replied, guiding her to a quieter corner of the venue. "I've been following your journey since everything happened," she started, her voice shaky. "I want to apologize for everything. I've realized how much I took for granted, how much you meant to me." I studied her, trying to read her sincerity. "I appreciate you saying that, Melissa. But this isn't just about apologies. We've both changed, and it's clear that our paths are no longer aligned." "I know," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I just wanted you to know that I regret what I did. I've been working on myself too, trying to understand why I made those choices." "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said, my tone firm but not unkind. "But I can't be part of that journey anymore. I'm focused on my future, and it's brighter than I ever imagined." She nodded slowly, and I could see the acceptance in her eyes. "You deserve all the happiness in the world, Jake. I really am proud of you." "Thank you," I replied, feeling a sense of closure. "I hope you find your own happiness too." As she walked away, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I had faced my past without letting it dictate my future. I had moved on, and I was ready to continue on this path of self-discovery and fulfillment. The evening culminated in the awards ceremony, and when they announced the winner of the competition, I was overwhelmed when my name was called. I could hardly believe it as I stepped onto the stage to accept my award. Cheers erupted around me, and I felt a rush of joy and validation. This was what I had worked so hard for, and in that moment, all the pain and betrayal faded into the background. I took a deep breath, looking out at the crowd, and I felt a sense of gratitude for every experience that had led me here. My journey was not just about revenge or proving a point. It was about reclaiming my life and learning to believe in myself again. As I held the award in my hands, I knew that this was just the beginning. I would continue to embrace opportunities, nurture my passions, and build meaningful connections. I was ready to write the next chapter of my life, one filled with purpose, love, and happiness on my terms. In the end, I learned that sometimes, losing everything can lead to finding yourself. I had taken the pieces of my shattered heart and transformed them into something beautiful. I was ready for whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength to face it head-on. Life was mine to create, and I intended to make it extraordinary.